B.J. Novak, who some of you may know as the writer, executive producer of, and also actor in, the comedy series The Office, released his first children's book in September 2014, The Book with No Pictures. As I was viewing and reading Philip Nell, Sue Tantari, and Sylvia Pantaleo's discussions of postmodern and metafictive children's literature, I realized that not only does B.J. Novak's children's book meet several of the discussed criteria for these types of books, it also pushes the boundaries even further, in, as its title states, providing only text and no illustrations. This concept makes the refreshing and contrarian case that words alone have sensory and imaginative vibrancy to share. The Book with No Pictures is an interactive book that plays with the traditional form of a children's book, in that it does not present a conventional story but offers more of a production for children through forcing adults to say silly things. The book is purely playful and opens up imaginative possibilities of what a book can be, two criteria Nell considers essential for metafiction. Sue Tantari argues that in metafiction, the reader is not passive but engaged with and responsive to the text. She discusses how postmodern texts challenge authority, order, and unity, while rejecting traditional normative narrative conventions. The Book with No Pictures breaks traditional boundaries and draws the children's attention to the freedom and gratification that can be achieved by subverting normative power dynamics. Instead of the adult being in control and holding the power, as in most areas of their lives, the children delight in the experience of watching adults having to succumb to the book's demands. Like Sue Tantari's argument about the monster at the end of this book, The Book with No Pictures also directly addresses the listener, as the reader utters pleas to stop the reading. In turn, the listener delights in giving orders and finds humor in going against the narrator's repeated requests to stop reading. Just as Dr. Sylvia Pantaleo argues that postmodern picture books can facilitate the development of a polysemous understanding of the nature of stories and the multiple ways that they can be written, represented, and told, The Book with No Pictures has rejected the notion for children's books requiring illustrations in order to be effective and engaging. The Book with No Pictures reflects McCollum's position that both postmodernism and metafiction include narrative fragmentation and discontinuity, disorder and chaos, code mixing, and absurdity. The book forces the adult reader to sing, mutter nonsense words and sounds, recite funny rhymes, and place the child on a pedestal. When the reader asks the children questions and protests continuing to read, the children are placed in a position of power, authority, and, as McCollum states, a more active and interpretive role. B.J. Novak considers his book to be transgressive, in that it provides a safe place for children to be rebellious. One of his goals in writing this book was to show children that books and words can be their allies, and that they can force grown-ups to do what they want them to do. Novak believes humor represents controlled rebellion, and that when the rules and expectations of the world are bent or broken, the results are exciting, interesting, and funny. In writing The Book with No Pictures, he realized that two fundamental rules had an opportunity to be in conflict. The adult is supposed to be in charge, but the reader is supposed to read every word in a book. By challenging these societal rules and expectations, Novak introduces children to the power of the written word by showing them how to abuse that power. He wrote a book that a child can hand to an adult, knowing it will force the adult to say silly things, thus challenging these established norms. Novak thought it would be funniest to a child if they thought it looked like a grown-up book, a plain, words-only book, but in fact found its secret mischief in the ridiculous words it would force the grown-up to say. In Lorna Bradbury's article in The Telegraph, Metafiction for Kids, actually they love it. She argues that Novak's book is inventive and anarchic in that it creates a magical inversion of the regular adult-child relationship, overthrowing all previously established power and authority in order to live in the moment. She celebrates the book's ability to offer a closeness between reader and listener. My children received The Book with No Pictures for Christmas this year, and we have read it multiple times. It has established itself as a new favorite in our house. Our children delight in watching the grown-ups in their lives act silly. They are especially excited when a grown-up who has never read the book comes over for a visit, and those grown-ups are also in for a surprise once they begin reading. Philip Nell explains metafiction as a book that reflects on what a book is or could be, a book that self-consciously plays with the form of a book. According to McCollum, metafiction for children is an elaborate form of play, a game with linguistic and narrative codes and conventions. The book with no pictures offers a space for children and adults alike to experience a new, playful environment in storytime, one that challenges traditional children's books, reverses the roles of the child and adult, defies an expected narrative, opens up imaginative possibilities, and creates active readers and listeners, all elements of metafiction, while successfully claiming the extensive power of words alone.